So, there was a special investigator that was looking into the Jussie Smollett case, and he's decided to reinstate 6 indictments on Smollett, basically charging him with lying to investigators about a racial hate crime that occurred to him in order to benefit himself personally. Now, I didn't talk a lot about the Jussie Smollett case when it was occurring, and I think that I'll just give my general opinions on it now, and I'll talk about the update that we're hearing about the reinstatement of the indictments. So, for those of you that, if you were under a rock and didn't hear this case, basically it was just Jussie Smollett. He's an actor. He happens to be a gay black man who's on the show Empire. He claims he left his apartment in Chicago in the middle of the night in the freezing weather. He was assaulted by 2 MAGA hat wearing white Trump supporters who poured bleach on him, put a noose around his neck, and yelled homophobic and racial slurs at him. After an investigation by the police that was lengthy, and this being national news, the police determined that this was all a hoax. It was made up, that he actually paid 2 of his Nigerian friends to pretend to be Trump supporters and do this. But then out of nowhere, the prosecutor in charge of the case, Kimberly Foxx, without even contacting the police, dropped all the charges. This aggravated the police. They decided to get a special investigator to look into it by the name of Webb. Webb decided that some 6 indictments for lying to the investigators should be reinstated on Smollett. Now, let's talk first about what I think about what Smollett did. This shows that he's not only conceited, narcissistic, and a terrible person, but that he was actually striving to create racial tensions and a racial fight and a political fight against Trump supporters to demonize those groups in order to get attacks and to get political leverage against them. That is racism. That is bigotry, clear as daylight. That's what's going on there. So Smollett did 2 things. The first thing is he wanted to benefit himself personally. Now, for most of the people I'm talking to, remember, my show's Just Normal America. I'm talking to just normal, everyday people. Probably 95% of my audience, Smollett makes more in 1 year than you'll make in multiple years. He's a wealthy person. He's presumably doing what he loves. He's acting on a successful television show. But even with all that money and doing a job that he loves, he still needed more. And the truth is, because of the social justice warriors, because of cultural Marxism and identity politics, and the establishment left, the biggest currency we have now isn't money. It's victimhood. Victimhood is power. And what better way to be a victim than as a gay black man who's famous claim that white Trump supporters put a noose around your neck and bleach and yelled racial and homophobic slurs at you. All of that money wasn't enough to satisfy him. He needed more. That shows you the dangers of our victimhood culture. Why is it that almost every time we see one of these national stories about a race crime or about a rape that shows the evils of the patriarchy, it ends up being a hoax? If there was really a patriarchy, if white supremacy really was running rampant, as those in the establishment left tells us, as academia tells us all the time, as the entertainment industry tells us all the time, then why do they only find these hoaxes to report to us? Now, I'm not saying racism or bigotry doesn't exist. Clearly it does. But it's nowhere near to the level of the problem that we're led to believe. And that's why they seek out these hoaxes and promulgate them and put them all over the media so that people think, oh my God, things are so bad. But it wasn't just that Smollett wanted to benefit himself, though that is a huge part of it. Someone who's that wealthy and that greedy, who still needs more. He doesn't just want the power of being wealthy and being in the 1% and being elite and one of the most privileged people in the history of the world. He also needs the victimhood status. He wants it all, just like most of these social justice warriors. That's why you see people in Yale chanting about the 1% when they themselves are the 1%. They want all of the wealth and the power that comes with being wealthy and in the 1%, and they want the victimhood status that comes with not being in that. They want it all. But not only that, Smollett killed 2 birds with 1 stone because he also wanted to smear Trump and his supporters and white people, which is another theme of cultural Marxism. Remember, it's all about dividing you based on categories like your gender, your race, etc., and then saying one group is evil or oppressors and the other group is the victim. So this is about further demonizing white people, demonizing Trump supporters, and it accomplished that. The mainstream narrative was that, oh, can you believe this happened to Smollett? Trump's rhetoric caused this. Trump supporters are terrible. White supremacy is terrible, etc. And it was all a lie. Now imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. We used to have this terrible problem, like read the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Women, what if you had something like a woman who was white, who accused black people of trying to sexually assault her because she wanted to increase her victimhood status and she wanted to go after a group that she didn't like. We would rightfully say that that person was a racist. That's kind of what happened in Kill a Mockingbird. That's what I'm saying. We'd say that's a terrible thing, encouraging violence and encouraging hatred towards a racial group based on a lie. Yet somehow when it's Jussie Smollett, no big deal. So the narrative still that prevailed was Trump's fault, Trump supporters are bad, when in reality it's the exact opposite that was true. The Trump supporters didn't do anything wrong. This had nothing to do with Trump. If anything, it had to do with the ideology that proponents victimhood, that says that that's the biggest currency. So I'm glad that Smollett's finally going to be facing justice. But believe it or not, I don't think he's the biggest villain in this story. I think that Kim Foxx, the attorney that let him go, is more of a problem. Now, if you've watched my live streams and stuff for the past couple days, we've been talking about the problem of authority figures usurping their job and refusing to enforce the laws. We see this in LA, where you have judges and prosecutors that refuse to prosecute people that are committing all sorts of crimes, whether they be homeless, whether they be drug addicts, etc. So the police are doing their dangerous job of being on the streets, arresting people, but then the prosecutors and judges just let them back on the street with almost no penalty. The same's happening in New York, where you see de Blasio and the police fighting back against him, where de Blasio encourages people to have rallies talking about how evil and white supremacist the police are. And then when police officers get targeted and shot, where's de Blasio? So we see this occurring all over the country. We see it with the story that the video I just did, where you had Roger Stone and corrupt investigators at the FBI are connected to Mueller's team, giving him an exorbitant sentence, basically baiting Barr to do the right thing and say, whoa, this sentence is crazy, so that they can say, oh, we resign. You're going after the investigators. That's corrupt. It's the same thing here. People, and we know that people like Soros are funding to destabilize our country. They're funding prosecutors and judges that they know will release criminals, that will have one-sided justice system, that will encourage things like racial strife, will encourage things like strife between the middle class and for people that are criminals, etc. That's what they want. The ultimate goal is to take out the middle class in the United States, to destabilize the country, and usher in an age of globalism where we all become dependent on the government. So we know this has actually happened. Kim Foxx is the most blatant example of that I've seen in some time. There is no possible explanation given for why she would drop the charges on Smollett. None. Even the police were outraged. Even Obama ally Rahm Emanuel was outraged, who was mayor at one point of Chicago. All of these groups outraged. Yet Kim Foxx, even today with the special investigator Webb has still not pressed charges on Kim Foxx. As far as I know, she's still in our position as prosecutor. Now, why did she do this? She seems to be someone in a little background of her. She's pro-Black Lives Matter. She's criticized the police before for being racist, etc. So could it be because she shares the same agenda as Jussie Smollett? As wanting to demonize Trump supporters, demonize white people, that she's like, hey, I'm going to let this guy off the hook that tried to demonize all these white people and cops, etc. Or could it be because we know that she had connections with a former Michelle Obama aide that was personally on the phone with her during this whole time with the Smollett thing when it originally came up? Now, Smollett's sisters both worked at the White House for Obama. So is it a coincidence that an aide of Michelle Obama called the prosecutor in charge of going after Smollett, and after that call, Kim Foxx decided, hey, I'm not going to charge Smollett? Now, there's also allegations that this coincided with hate crime legislation that was being passed and pushed by Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. Now, I don't have the evidence at this time that Harris or Booker were in contact with Smollett, but what I can say is they immediately came out and used it to their benefit. Oh, can you believe this happened? We need justice for Smollett, remember? That's what they said. They've been pretty quiet now that we know it was all a hoax, though, right? Easy to jump on the bandwagon of the hoax because it was perpetuated against groups they don't like. White people, Trump supporters. So it was easy to point the finger and say, yes, this is terrible. But when it was all a hoax, they don't reflect on their own rhetoric and how that could have caused this and their victimhood culture. So I won't be satisfied until both Smollett and Webb face criminal charges for their actions and for the perversion of the law that we see occurring more and more. It's up to us to point out stories like this to show just how corrupt these people, these prosecutors, these judges are. Most of the police on the street are trying to do their job. They're out there trying to stop incredible homicide rates, primarily victims in the black community. Black people being shot at record clips in places like Chicago. They're out there trying to keep them safe. Yet instead they're wasting their time on a racial hoax committed by this wealthy person, Jussie Smollett. And then when they get to the bottom of it and they're correctly outraged, they have the person that's in charge with prosecuting that crime decide to go against the wishes of the police and let them off the hook. So yes, I'm happy that Smollett got reindicted. I hope he gets everything he deserves. There can't be enough. I think he should spend at least 10, 20 years in jail if I was considering it. He tried to foster violence. He tried to foster hatred. He abused the police system and their resources. And if a poorer person that wasn't as well connected to it did this, the book would have been thrown at them. So I hope that happens to Smollett. But I also hope that Kim Foxx gets what's coming to her too. She's disbarred, and I hope that she faces criminal time for her actions. Thank you, everyone. If you like this video, please check out the description. Follow me on all the channels I have in my subscription. Please, it's very important to give me a thumbs up if you like it. Make sure you're subscribed. YouTube's taking away some of my subscribers, so make sure that you click the bell so you can get updates. And usually at the end of my videos, you'll see a little picture of me and then a previous video. If you click that picture of me, it'll automatically take you to where you can subscribe as well. So I would really appreciate that. And look for me to be doing live streams the rest of the weeks. Check out most nights, most Mondays through Thursday at 11 p.m. I'm doing a live stream, and I always do a live stream Friday at noon, all times Eastern. So look out for those live streams and me collaborating with some other people on some streams coming up soon. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good one.